Okay, so is that it? Are we on? Are we live? I'm going to adjust my volume here a little bit. I think that should be good. I'm going to start off by playing the theme song that I developed for this broadcast. So here it is. xa'islak'ala, xa'islak'ala, xa'islak'ala. Youts. Ab Hello, I'm called Ab, and welcome to the second ever xa'islak'ala live stream. We are on time this time. I've worked some things out. I think the problem was last week was that I thought that I'd started streaming. So the way that I have this set up is I have a program that I use called OBS, and it's a broadcasting program that you can use on your computer, and that's how I'm able to switch back and forth between different programs as I'm broadcasting. But usually I record things, so I don't really have to worry about whether I'm going live or not. So I pressed a button that said start streaming. So I figured that meant the stream had begun. But little did I know that it had not begun. And I went through my entire program. It took me about 40 minutes. And by the time I finished it, I went looking for the streamed video, and there was nothing. So I figured things out. There's one more adjustment that I'm going to make next time, so that I think I can set it up so that it starts streaming as soon as I hit start streaming in my third-party program. Instead of having to go, the step that I missed was actually going to my YouTube channel and starting the stream there. So there's a button that you press that says go live, and I wasn't aware that I had to do that. So I thought that by starting the stream in OBS that it was going to start streaming live on YouTube, but there was an extra step there that I wasn't aware of. But I got that figured out. I got the first live stream done last week. So as I said, this is all new to me, so I'm having to figure things out as I go along. So just bear with me as I do that. So I want to bring up my plan for today. This is my PDF file, and I'm going to switch my screen so that I can see it. So this is the thumbnail for today's video, and this is the live stream for May 5th, 2023. We'll be going probably about 30 minutes, somewhere around there. That's about how long the last stream was. So we'll just see how things go. Might go a little bit less than that, might go a little bit more. We'll just have to wait and see. So today is Friday, May 5th. So in xa'islak'ala, what we would say is sik'apunsu. Sik'apunsu means Friday. So sik'apuns means Friday. And this U at the end basically means it's happening now. And then Islam means today. So sik'apunsu Islam means today is the 5th day of the week. So sik'a is what we call a root word. It's a beginning of a word. This uns basically means like day. So 5th, so sik'a is 5, uns is day, u means it's happening now. And then Islam means today. Sik'apunsu Islam, today is the 5th day of the week. And then the month, Kapila kosu. Kapila kosu. So this comes from the word kabis. So kapilakos means like time of spring salmon. And in English we call that May. And again, we see the letter U, meaning that's happening now. So kapila kosu means it is May, or the more literal term for it would be spring, salmon month, or this kos basically means like time, a time of. So kapila kos, in a more literal sense, would mean time of spring salmon. And then we have the day of the month, so sakyapana la tlalo, sakyapana la tlalo, sakyapana la tlalo means it is the 5th day of the month. So that's the day and day of the week and the month that we're in now. So I've got another document here prepared. So I want to take a look at Chinook Jargon. And I'm just going to make a little adjustment here. This doesn't affect the broadcast. I just want to bring up a window, a preview window, so that I can see what you guys see. So as it stands now, I could probably center myself better. The way I have this program set up is that if I have the program open, like if I'm looking at the window while I'm broadcasting, then I can see what you guys see. But if I switch to a different window, I can no longer see myself. So I just made a little adjustment so I have a preview window down in the corner of my screen so that I can see exactly what you guys are seeing. And it makes it a little bit easier for me to do the broadcast. So I'm going to switch to a different tab here. So these are Haisla words that come from Chinook Jargon. So I've been studying Chinook Jargon for a while, a few years now, and I've really been studying it hard for the past week or so. I've gone pretty deep into Chinook Jargon. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a trade language that was used probably beginning around the mid-1800s, somewhere around there. And it was a language that primarily came from the Chinook dialect. So a lot of people kind of get confused. There was or is a dialect called Chinook. It is a full language, but in the region that it's spoken, in Oregon, it seems like there's a lot of different dialects spoken around that area, so there's lots of variations. So I think what they did was they kind of amalgamated it all into Chinook Jargon. So the jargon actually originated from the full Chinook language, and it went all up and down the coast, the Pacific coast. So from Alaska all the way probably down to like California, somewhere around there. Mostly spoken up here in the northern part of the Pacific coast, I would think. So it's based primarily on the Chinook language. It has other languages mixed in, like French. Anything that starts with la, like la prête is one of the words we'll be looking at. That originally comes from French. So there's a lot of words that are in the Chinook jargon that actually originated from French. There's some Nuchanuth in there. Like the word palich comes from a Nuchanuth word. I'm not sure what the exact word is that they use, but it refers to their potlatch, their ceremony, and it basically means to give. I think that's the definition in Nuchanuth, and it's also the same definition in Chinook jargon. So when you're speaking Chinook jargon, palich means to give. So when I'm speaking about it, I always specify that I'm speaking about Chinook jargon. A lot of people just say Chinook, and they mean Chinook jargon. So just to avoid any confusion, because there is an actual Chinook language that's separate from Chinook jargon. So I tend to refer to it as Chinook jargon. So there's some explanation here at the beginning of the document. So the letters GR stand for Grand Ronde. And this is the region where Chinook Jargon is spoken as their official language. There's a place called Grand Ronde. It's at the mouth of the Columbia River in Oregon. So the spellings that I use in this document are from a book called Chinook Jargon, as our elders teach us to speak it. And this was published in 2012 by the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde Community of Oregon. So it's primarily a dictionary, and it has other information, more information about the mechanics of the language, like how it works. And also it has some texts of stories that have been transcribed into Chinook Jargon. So they have their own orthography that they use. So that's addressed here in the second bullet point. So Grand Ronde is the only standardized spelling of Chinook Jargon that I'm aware of. There might be others, but I haven't seen any that are I can really refer to as being standardized. So every dictionary from about the mid-1800s to the early 1900s had different spellings. So there was one by George Gibbs that was published. There was another one by George Shaw. Those were earlier ones from the late 1800s, I believe, and there was one from the early 1900s from another person. His name escapes me right now. I can't remember off the top of my head. But there's at least 3 dictionaries from late 1800s to early 1900s that were published, and they all had different spellings. But I use the Grand Ronde spelling for consistency in spelling and pronunciation. And the last note here, there's one word that actually has a small raised R after it, and this indicates that the word is from a regional dialect of Chinook Jargon. So this means that if you see a little raised R after a word, it means that that word is only spoken in specific areas. It's spoken in one area in particular and not others. So that's also another difference in this book here, this Grand Ronde book, Chinook Jargon, as our elders teach us to speak it, is that the first part of the dictionary is more like general words, and then there's a section after it that goes over more regional words. And I got a copy of it off Amazon, so if you're interested in that, that's the name of the book here, so you can look that up. You can go on Amazon, and it's a hard copy. It's a paperback book, so you can have that shipped to you if you purchase that. Okay, so the way I have this set up is I have Chinook Jargon words here in the left column. I have isla words in the middle, and then English definitions in the right-hand column. So GR again stands for Grand Ronde, so that's the Grand Ronde spelling that I'm using. So the first word here is Boston. Boston. The isla spelling is pretty much exactly the same. The only difference is we've got this little dash over the A. That is an accent marker. So that tells us we're saying Boston. We're starting at a high pitch. Boston. And I've also changed this symbol here in the Grand Ronde orthography. This is called a schwa. Looks like an upside down backwards E. In xa'islak'ala, we also use the schwa, but we just represent it using a regular E. And this is kind of the anglicized version of Boston. And the definition of this is American. So if you look at this word, Chinook Jargon. So Chinook is the Chinook people of Oregon. Wawa basically means to speak, or a language. So Chinook Jargon means to speak Chinook, or the Chinook language, also referred to as Chinook Jargon. So that word wawa can actually be used along with this word Boston. So if you say Boston wawa, that means American language or English. The next word here is Chinook wawa. So some people use a CH, ch, and some people use an U. So it might sound like Chinook wawa. Some people actually pronounce this as an SH and this U as an U. So it might be Chinook. So either way is acceptable as far as I know. You could say Chinook wawa or you could say Chinook wawa. In xa'islak'ala, there's a few different versions of this. So you could say Chinook wawa. Chinook wawa. And that would mean Chinook Jargon. Or you could say xa'islak'ala. xa'islak'ala. And this GL here, this refers to the Gitlope dialect. So this originates from the Kamano and Gitlope people. So that's their spelling and pronunciation. And the other version that I have here is xa'islak'ala. xa'islak'ala. GM means Kitimat. That's the xa'islak'ala dialect. So there's three different ways you can say this. You could say Chinook wawa, or you could say xa'islak'ala, or you could say xa'islak'ala. Either one of those is acceptable. The next word here is dala. In xa'islak'ala it's the same, but we've added an acute accent over the first A, so we know we're saying dala. So we're starting off on a higher tone, ending on a lower tone, and dala means money. The next word here is dret. So that's the Chinook wawa word. In xa'islak'ala, it's deled. So this is an interesting word because we don't have the letter R in xa'islak'ala. So we've replaced the letter R with L. And in Chinook wawa, you just go from a D right into an R, so you go dra. But in xa'islak'ala, it works a little bit differently. You tend to not go from one consonant directly into another. There are situations where you can do that, but for the most part, two consonants will be separated by something. So it's usually this E, which we previously discussed as being called a schwa. So it's kind of a way of separating consonants. So it's daled. And also keep in mind the letters A and I together in xa'islak'ala always sound like eh. They never sound like A. So it's not delayed, it's deled. AI says eh. So try and keep that in mind. So deled means very. The next word is kushu. Kushu. In xa'islak'ala, it's guaso. Guaso. And again, A and U together always sound like O. So it's different than O. There's O and then there's O. So this is guaso. So there's a subtle variation, a subtle difference. But listen for those differences and you'll be a better listener and a better speaker of xa'islak'ala. And guaso means pig. Next we have Cuitan. Cuitan. And the xa'islak'ala word is Guidan. There's a couple of different ways you can say it. You can say Guidan, or you could say Gyawadan. So either way is acceptable. I tend to say it this way because it's closer to the Chinook wawa pronunciation. So I tend to say Guidan, Guidan. Or you could say Gyawadan, Gyawadan. and that means horse. Next we have ʷade. ʷade. In xa'islak'ala, ʷade. So instead of a K sound, we have a G sound. And this rounded, or this small raised W means that it's a rounded sound. ʷade. ʷade. And that's quarter in English. So I was talking about French words in Chinook before. So this is one of them, and it's la moula. La moula. In xa'islak'ala, we just say moula. Moula means a mill. I think it specifically refers to a pulp mill. This is also a French word in origin. I'd mentioned it earlier. Lepret. Lepret in Chinook. In xa'islak'ala, it's lepelette. Lepelette. So again, we see this R being replaced by an L. We're keeping the P, but we're adding this E, putting it in between the P and the L to separate those two consonants. So it's lepelette, and that means priest. The next word is moose. Moose. Xa'islak'ala is a little bit different. Miss Moose. So a lot of people tend to miss this part here. It's actually pronounced miss, and then the second syllable is moose. Miss Moose, and that is cow. And this next word here is paint, and you see the little R there. So I mentioned that this is a regional word in Chinook, so it's not spoken in all areas of the original Chinook-speaking people in Oregon. It's only spoken in certain parts of Oregon. In xa'islak'ala, it's pent. Pent. So again, AI says like met, pet, get, set, let in English. AI always says never says a. So this is pant. And in English, of course, it's paint. And I want to mention that pant is the noun. So it refers to the substance that we refer to as paint. Penta means to paint. So it's a verb. It refers to the action of painting. So pent is the paint, the substance that we use to paint with. Penta means to paint in xa'islak'ala. These last few, I'm not entirely sure of. These are just guesses on my part as to whether there's a connection between them. So in Chinook, there's a word pulali. Pulali. And in xa'islak'ala, there's a word pod. Pod. And I believe this refers to powder. I'm not entirely sure of that. I was able to find it in one dictionary. When I cross-referenced this word, I wasn't able to find it in other dictionaries. So that's why I have a question mark beside this. Pod, I think, could refer to powder in xa'islak'ala. The next one is shuka. Shuka, or lashukur. Lashukur in Chinook. In xa'islak'ala, sugwa. Sugwa. I believe this refers to sugar. Again, I wasn't able to find this in any of the dictionaries. I found a word that was close to it, but not exactly the same. So I'm not 100% sure if this is the way that we would spell it or say it in xa'islak'ala. I'm pretty sure I've heard fluent speakers say sugwa before. So I'm pretty confident that this is how we say it in xa'islak'ala. And this would be the spelling as well. And this last one, this is purely a guess on my part. So in Chinook, This word is ulali. Ulali. In xa'islak'ala we have golali. Golali, and this means berry. Specifically in xa'islak'ala, golali means huckleberry. So I'm not 100% sure if there's a direct connection between these words. You can see the xa'islak'ala version is different. There's a letter in front of the rest of the word. So it's golali instead of ulali or olali. So that's just a guess on my part. I'm not sure if there's a direct connection. I don't know for sure if golali comes from ulali or not. Again, that's speculation on my part. But those are xa'islak'ala words that are in Chinook Jargon, that are in our language, that originate from Chinook Jargon. So I found that pretty interesting. If you have any corrections about anything that I've said here about Chinook Jargon, as I said, I'm just starting to learn Chinook Wawa, so I'm not entirely sure if I've pronounced everything properly here, the Chinook words, or the xa'islak'ala words. I know I have the right spellings here and the right pronunciations, but if you have information about these last ones, that would be really helpful. And if you have any more words that you know that come from Chinook Jargon, that would also be very helpful. So you can leave that in the chat if you're watching live right now. If not, you can leave them in the comments below if you're watching the replay. So those are xa'islak'ala words from Chinook Jargon. And I want to do root word analysis. So this is entry number 3. This word that I'm focusing on today is pehu. Pehu. And this means to grope, to feel with the hands, or to palpate. So this is root list entry number 114. So in the common root word list published by Lincoln and Rath in 1980, this is number 114 of their entry. And then this is a separate book. This is Lincoln and Rath. This is their dictionary that they published in 1986. And I found this on page 476. So the root word listings are in the back of volume 2, the second book. And then I basically copied all of these words. I wrote them all down in my notebook. So I have a book that I'm currently working on that I write all of these out by hand, and then later on I type them up. So I basically write down all of these words. So in the back they don't have definitions for them, so I look up all the definitions individually. So the first word here is xa'islak'ala. Xa'islak'ala. And this means to feel about with the hands or to grope wildly. And I found this on page 286 of the Lincoln and Rath dictionary. The next word is ʷade. ʷade. And this means to find something by feeling. The example that they use is a light switch or to grope for something. And I'm just realizing I'm missing an end bracket there. So a little typo there. I'll fix that later on. But this is on page 287 of the Lincoln and Rath dictionary. The next word here is ʷade. ʷade. And this is defined as an instrument for catching herring. They speculate that it might be a kind of fishing line. And this is also on page 287. Next is ʷade. ʷade. To touch something unexpectedly, on page 287. Next up is xa'islak'ala. xa'islak'ala. This means to feel one's way around a house or a room, on page 288. Next is xa'islak'ala. xa'islak'ala, and this means to feel one's around the bay. I believe this could mean the beach, to feel your way around the beach. The reason I think that is because of this part of the word here. This is a suffix. This is part usually refers to the beach, or it could refer to like the bay. Or riverbank. It could also refer to a riverbank as well, as far from my understanding. The next word is ewth, or ewth. Ewth. Something one feels for with the hands. On page 288. And so this I is following a P with an apostrophe on top, so that means that this is what we call a retracted I. So a regular I sounds like E, but after a symbol like this apostrophe with the or apostrophe on top of the I, it sounds like A. So this is xa'islak'ala, xa'islak'ala, ewth. And the next word is ewha. So it's the singular form. The plural form is ewha. Ewha. And this means to grope or to feel something with the hands. And that's on page 288. Next, there's a couple of different ways of saying it. You could say ewhata, ewhata, or you could say ewhita, ewhita, and this means to search a person, and that's on page 288. And last we have ewhala. So ewhala is the singular form. The plural is ewhala. Ewhala means to feel with the hand, and that is on page 288. So that is the latest word analysis. So I'm just going to check on my YouTube page here. So I'm not seeing any chat, any questions in the chat, but if you have any questions right now, if you have some quickly, you can answer, you can fire away. If not, I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching this. If you're watching live, that's great. If you catch this on the replay, that's awesome as well. So this is something new that I'm trying out. I'm kind of getting a feel for it and figuring things out as I go along. So this one went a lot better. It started on time, so that's great. And yeah, so this is really interesting. I'm enjoying this quite a bit. It saves me a little bit of work, because what I was doing before is I was recording my videos, so I'd have to sit down, I'd have to record, I would watch the video to see if I needed to make any changes to it. I would upload to YouTube, I'd edit it, and then it creates a whole new version of it when you do that, so you have to wait for it to upload before you can edit it. Then you save the changes, you wait for it to make those changes before you can actually share it. And so it's a whole process. And by doing the live stream, I'm kind of saving myself from all of that. I basically just start the stream, I go through my my program, and then when I hit end stream, I'm done. It's up and it's ready. So, and it also allows for some interactivity. So if people are watching live, they can ask questions as I'm talking. So that is also very interesting. I like that aspect of it. So I'm not seeing anything in the chat here, so I'll end this stream by saying Anathzach Nugutla kan Akaaks du Kakawataaks du Homiaaks. I thank you for coming and for listening and for watching. And also remember, until next time, learning is its own reward. Xa'islak'ala. Wa.